Hey gamers, it's your boy Columns coming at you with a review of the hot new Nintendo Switch Entertainment System accessory, the Switch Charge. I paid like $90 for this thing like a year ago, and I finally got it like 2 weeks ago, so you know, time to talk about it. When the Nintendo Switch was first showing off, its battery life wasn't exactly the greatest sounding thing in the world. 2.5 to 6 hours, it's about the same as the original 3DS or even the original Vita. Of course, in practice, your mileage is going to vary when it comes to battery life on any smart device. Screen brightness, whether or not you have internet on, or if you're downloading something, or even depending on what game you're playing, your mileage is going to vary. So in theory, you could get a bit better battery life than what is expected, but still, most are going to say that the Switch's battery life is not that great, and to be honest, it really isn't. When the Switch Charge was first shown off, it kind of seemed like a novelty. The console had just come out, and basically everyone realized, oh wow, the Switch isn't going to flop like the Wii U did. So every accessory maker came out of the woodwork and was like, hey, we got something being made for the Switch too. The Switch Charge was the first to market any sort of battery case for the thing, which means that when the Indiegogo page came up for people to actually fund the product, a lot of people, including myself, went to go do so. In between the time that the Indiegogo page went up and the product was finally shipped out to backers, a ton of new battery cases for the Switch have come out, and you can pretty much get them at a variety of different stores like Best Buy, Amazon, Chinese Amazon, etc. But before I actually get to talking about the thing, I kind of have to talk about something else, namely the Switch's USB-C port. The reason being is that if you go to the Switch Charge's website, you're going to find this big thing of orange text that says, fully tested and compatible with 5.0 update. There's been a lot of hubbub recently about the Switch in terms of docking and charging the thing, and that's mainly due to the fact that it has recently turned out that the Switch's USB-C port isn't exactly USB-C compliant. The Switch actually sucks up a lot more power than any other device with a USB-C port really should. This has basically caused a lot of hysteria over third-party accessories like third-party docks and cables and chargers and all that type of stuff. And it's made people think that their console is going to brick from using third-party accessories. I could basically make a whole video talking about the situation because, in my opinion, there really isn't enough evidence to really show if whether or not using any type of third-party product is really going to be a hazard. I mean, yeah, there's been some cases of, like, Nyko docks bricking the Switch, but, I mean, the Nyko dock was bricking Switches before the 5.0 update. Now, that doesn't mean that you shouldn't be careful of, like, sketchy batteries and cables and all that, but what I'm saying is that I've owned my Nintendo Switch since launch day, and I've used all sorts of battery banks and cables and adapters and even a couple third-party docks, and hey, the thing still works for me. So I'd say take all this hysteria with a grain of salt. As far as the Switch Charge is concerned, it's not going to cause an issue. It's a battery bank. It should be fine. I mean, they had to test the thing with the Switch over a bunch of months. Granted, that's probably giving them a lot more credit, but, you know, I have faith. Now that that's said and done, let's actually talk about the Switch Charge. The thing boasts having a 10,000 milliamp battery, and comes with features such as an improved kickstand, a little storage area for extra cartridges, and a USB port for charging external devices. Inside the box, you get a little card thanking you for giving them $90 on a whim, a card telling you how to plug the Switch into the Switch Charge, and a cheapy little cable that I'll probably never use. The device has that kind of crappy, rubbery finish that a lot of electronics have that makes you feel like you want to, like, wash your hands after every time you touch it. On the side of the device is 4 LED lights to tell you how much battery life is left on the device, along with a USB-C in and a USB-A out. Now, heads up, these ports are strictly for charging. You're not going to be plugging any controllers or like third-party docks into this thing. Trust me, I've tried. Nothing happens. In terms of size, the Switch Charge basically doubles the size of the Switch and kind of adds a bit of heft too. Take your Switch tablet, shove your favorite Criterion Blu-ray behind it, and then imagine it being maybe 2 pounds heavier. That's basically what the Switch Charge is in terms of size and feel. The Switch isn't really the most ergonomic thing on the planet, and adding a bunch of extra thickness to the middle isn't exactly going to make the thing feel any more comfortable. If anything, it actually makes it feel a little more uncomfortable. I tried to remedy this by adding little soft rubberized grips to the Joy-Cons, and that actually did help a bit since you're probably going to be gripping onto the Joy-Cons more than you are the entire device. But this isn't the best solution because those little Joy-Con grips actually block the charging ports on the side of the device. If anything, if you plan on playing this thing in portable mode, I would actually probably recommend just taking the tablet out of the Switch Charge and just plugging it in directly into the external USB port on the side of the device. Sure, it kind of defeats the purpose, but it helps. It helps a lot. The improved kickstand sure is better than the original kickstand. I mean, breaking your arm is kind of better than the original kickstand, but it does feel kind of flimsy when you're moving it in and out of positions, but when it's actually staying in place, it's not moving anywhere. The cartridge holding area is a nice touch. There's a little extra notch of plastic that causes the back cartridge to get stuck, and you kind of need a little bit of extra force to really pull the thing out. You could probably just file it down to fix that, but yeah, I don't really know why that's there. My least favorite thing about the Switch Charge is the top flap. It's basically there to keep the tablet in place while you have it plugged in, but really it's just kind of unnecessary. It barely stays down all the way. Granted, I have a Switch with a modified back on it, so maybe my Switch is a little thicker than normal and that's the reason why it's not closing all the way, but even on an unmodified Switch, it still doesn't really close all the way. It's kind of weird. The power and volume buttons are pretty easy to get to. It has enough space for the vent on the top, but the headphone jack and the cartridge slot are basically rendered useless. All of my headphones won't pass through the hole that's supposed to lead to the headphone jack, and you can barely open up the cartridge slot when the top is down. You might as well just open up the top flap whenever you want to use the headphone jack or swap out a cartridge. I mean, the thing does a pretty good job of holding the Switch in place anyway, so I really don't even know why that top flap is there. Now let's actually talk about the Switch Charge charging the Switch, and I'm here to tell you that it does exactly that. Of course, the main thing I had to test right away is how good it actually is at charging the Switch from not to full. So I basically just turned my Switch on, plopped in Breath of the Wild, and left it running for like 2.5 hours while it killed the battery. I then just turned on the Switch Charge, put the Switch to sleep, and waited. And just waited to see what happened. To charge the Switch to completion took about 2 hours, and by the time it was done, one of the LED lights on the side of the Switch Charge had dropped like 1. So it's safe to say that charging the Switch to completion drops about 25 to maybe 33% of the Switch Charge's battery, meaning depending on the game and your screen brightness and stuff like that, I would say you'd be able to get maybe 3 full charges out of the thing, maybe 4, again, kind of depending on your settings. I did this test a few more times and the results were the same every single time. To actually charge the Switch Charge, just plug it into, I guess, your Nintendo AC adapter, and it also takes about 2 hours to just charge completely. By the way, a nice little touch of the Switch Charge is that when the Switch is done charging, the Switch Charge just turns itself off automatically, so you don't have to worry about overcharging or anything like that. As far as charging the Switch while also playing on it, it's possible, but it's too slow to really be advisable. I tried just turning on the Switch Charge and then soloing a few missions in Payday 2, and after 10 minutes it barely went up 2%. So it is still possible, you're still getting more battery life, but just very, very slowly. And yes, of course, you can plug in other devices into the Switch charge, and it works about just as well as you'd think it would. I've only used this feature a couple times to plug in my iPhone SE, and yes, you can charge 2 devices at the same time, though I'm sure this probably kills the Switch charge's battery really quickly, so you may just want to charge 1 device at a time. So, final thoughts. Would I recommend the Switch charge? Well, yeah. It pretty much does exactly what it advertises and does that thing pretty damn well. If you own a Switch and you're thinking about buying a battery bank for it to charge not only the Switch but also some other device, it's pretty much an elegant and simplified solution to that problem, since it basically takes form of the Switch. Yeah, it's a bit bulkier, but, you know, it probably takes up less space than having like a giant anchor battery and a Switch in a pocket or two. I think the most use you will get out of this device is when you're using it in tabletop mode, because the improved kickstand and the extra battery life means that you can pretty much just leave the Switch on a table stationary for really as long as you want to keep playing. And I feel like this will be extremely useful for get-togethers, meetups, and plane rides and stuff like that. At $90, the price is a little steep, but you're pretty much paying for convenience, and I'd say it pretty much lives up to that price. While I've mostly touched on negatives when it comes to the build quality, overall it's an extremely sturdy device, and I actually really like what they've done with the product. It feels nice, it performs well, it's a good battery bank, it does what it needs to. That's really all you need. And I'm gonna give this one an arbitrary 4 out of 5 rating. Thanks for watching, gamers. Catch you on the flip side. What? I don't know. I really don't know how to end this video.